AP U.S. history test was really, really hard. She had that today. She actually had to go back and study all of it.
It's good to see those lines painted on the street outside there today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're supposed to take everything down. Jane sent me a email, so everything was ready to
He
go.
came through.
I was just glad to see those lines because
Oh, yeah.
you try to go, where's the rumble strip? And, you know, that was good to see.
Exactly.
It is 6:30 and time for the Tipton Community School Board of Trustees monthly meeting for December. Thank you all for coming, and I would ask Mrs. Benefield to lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda items. And among those are the approval of tonight's agenda, approval of minutes for November the 9th, 2021 regular session, November the 9th, 2021 executive session, and payroll claims for November the 12th, payroll claims for November the 15th, payroll claims for November the 26th, and payroll claims for December the 10th, along with accounts payable claims for December. Approval of the personnel report, I will read that and after we approve, and approval of reappointment of Gary Plummer to the CW Mount Advisory Board beginning January 1st through December 31st of 2025. Need a motion to accept the consent agenda items.
I move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. The personnel report is certified staff, medical leave. Marianne Standiford is requesting extension of medical leave through the end of the school year. Retirement of Nick Straight, technology education teacher at Tipton High School. Recommendation of Tammy Hetty, temporary second grade teacher, extension through the end of the school year. Back pay adjustment for Diane Deaconkalb. Classified staff are transfer, Susan Voss, transfer from bus aide to instructional assistant at the elementary school. Resignation, Beth Smith, part-time custodian, Tipton Elementary School. Recommendation for Martin Aspiazu, part-time custodian, Tipton Elementary School. Sam Phillips, Corporation Athletic Secretary. Pam Hoolan, Corporation Bus Assistant, and a pay adjustment for Amy Phillips. The ECA staff, resignation of Adam Armstrong, 8th grade girls basketball coach. Matt Quigley, 8th grade girls basketball coach. Aaron Shockley, JV softball coach, Tipton High School. Trent Wellbaum, 7th grade boys basketball coach at the middle school. A recommendation of Jason Bales to 8th grade boys basketball coach at the middle school, and Alec Weddle, 7th grade boys basketball coach at the middle school. So thank you. And next up on the agenda is the superintendent's report, Dr. Glaze.
Thank you, Gary. First of all, it's hard to believe, but we're nearing the end of first semester and looking forward to the beginning of second semester. So, of course, the last day for students is this Friday, the 17th. We do have a teacher work day on Monday, the 20th. Students will return on January 3rd, 2022. Does that even seem possible? 2022. Wow. And first semester report cards will be available to parents via Power Parent on Wednesday, January 5th. So that's the Wednesday that we come back, 2022. We love the fact that the first semester is here, but that also means inclement weather is likely on its way too. So we will, be looking at e-learning days when we can. We don't like to have a lot of those in a row, so we'll make adjustments to those as we need to. Once again, we are, we will handle the communication with that as we have. One thing that I would like to encourage is for more of our parents to opt in to text messages. School Messenger does require an opt-in, so they just don't automatically tap into PowerSchool and use that. You actually have to email a code, or you have to text a code to Messenger, and then you will receive text messages. So we've tried to send that information out, and so we will continue to do so. But again, to make sure that you get all of that information in a timely manner, please help us by opting into those text messages. I have had a frazzled day looking at the TAG grant funds. Again, that's an award that comes from the state of Indiana, and again, it's the Teacher Appreciation Grant. We have a very limited time in order to disperse those funds. So literally have 20 working days to get that done. So it does create a little bit of a crazy time in the business office to get all that taken care of. So we are working on that, and hope to have that money dispersed by the 27th of December, the Monday after the typical pay on the 24th. So that's part of the fun there with the TAG grant. I also included down there as an attachment, and I know that Gary's asked me about this several times, and I always forget to share it. Just some general information about the solar field, how that is saving us money, how how we can, how it's supporting our school. So I've supplied that for you. We have to file a report annually with the state for that. So this is kind of the year overview. So again, we do get a lot of rewards from having that solar field, and it does help us with our overall costs. So definitely a good thing for our corporation. Matt Skiba would like to talk very quickly about the auditorium and some cool updates.
Good evening, everybody. Just to give a small update on a project that's been kind of ongoing for over a year now. We just received word over the last couple of weeks that the Tipton County Foundation has awarded a $31,000 grant to the school. That's being put into a 4-phase project into the auditorium, which will put new projectors and new screens in the auditorium, a backlit projector at the very back of the stage. Will involve moving some existing equipment into the main gym, so that we can kind of alter very, very slightly how we do graduation. At this point in the main gym, we open the curtain and show the video at the very back of the stage. With what we are able to do now, we can actually keep that blue curtain closed and just drop a screen down, rather than having to open it, close it, have the tarp hung in the back. And then in the auditorium itself, there will be 3 screens, 1 central, 2 off on the sides, all of which will be retractable, and we can use all 3 independently. If anybody was able to see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang when TCT was here, they had a lot of images and videos that were happening at the rear end of the auditorium, at the very, very back edge of the stage. We'll have a better projector installed for that so that we can do high definition images, videos with our own productions. TCT will be able to use it. And then from that grant, a grant from the Campbell Family Foundation, and an agreement with TCT, we've kind of been able to finally wrap all of that project up. We met with contractors last week, and are hoping to get all of that ordered and ready to go here in the next couple weeks, so that by April we are done.
Wonderful.
Thanks for doing all that.
Yeah,
Pretty
thank
good.
you.
And Matt has really spearheaded this whole thing, and I appreciate his work on this. And again, just creating more opportunities for our kids and making our facilities more state of the art, which is what we want. So thank you. And that's it for my report.
All right. Next is Spotlight on Schools. And Ms. Hall, Shayla Hall, has a presentation on the TMS and Tipton Elementary School special education staffing.
Hi, I'm Shayla Hall. I'm the special ed coordinator, as I said. We have been working, especially in the elementary and middle school, to figure out ways to better improve how we're servicing students, especially in special education. So, with that, is that?
I deal with this every stinking meeting. I think it's gonna work, and I try it. There we go.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, so we had a few concerns as a team, ideas that we thought we needed to change. We all agreed, elementary, middle school, our special ed team as a whole, that what we were doing was not working in the sense that we weren't providing the best services we could for students. So the special ed across the building, we're spending a large amount of time handling behaviors. We see a behavioral increase really every year. But really COVID, not to use it as an excuse, we've seen I would say the trauma now that has come with that, especially for some of our really little kids. Current caseloads were uneven as far as workload and student numbers. The support we were providing to general education, classroom was uneven, and the current practices did not support the behavioral needs of students. So as a team, we came up with a solution to hopefully alleviate a lot of this and create that more inclusive environment moving forward. So we have two big focuses. Our first focus is behavior. Academics cannot occur if that child's not regulated, if they're not ready to learn, that academics is not going to be there. So for those students, even though there may be a few number of them, they can, in lack of a better word, kind of run the school, run those classrooms, because those behaviors require a lot of adult attention, prompting, and support. So with them coming to us with higher needs, providing that place where we can provide some emotional regulation, some of those emotional self-regulation practices. So our hope is to have a special education teacher who will focus on the behavioral development of our students with IEPs, those special education students, to provide those social developments and provide a safe place, a small group setting to learn so that they can get the skills they need to survive in the regular classroom. So some students, just are not ready for that, so they just take a little bit of time to learn some of those skills. These students will be recommended for this teacher based solely on that special education meeting, that IEP meeting, as determined by that team. So our second focus then is that each student is a gen ed student first. This is really going into that inclusive setting, shifting our mind to the divide of this is a gen ed student, this is a special ed student, and really just providing what's best for all students regardless of any labels. So to do this, we have to kind of rethink how we're providing services. And by doing that, we're going to look at how we can provide the best services in reading and math specifically. Not saying science, social studies, not saying any of that's not important, but just based on our staffing and how we can provide the best support, we're going to focus on reading and math and then fill in as needed. This will include providing support in the classroom and then providing support for gen ed teachers when maybe that special ed support isn't available, on how to differentiate lessons and provide those accommodations. Special education minutes will be focused on providing that equitable classroom environment. And then we also will still provide intervention times, which is the common practice of providing that support, very specific and small group for reading and math. And so the big positive impacts of this is at the student level, it's going to provide the best support for them. We're providing that least restrictive environment. We're encouraging all students to be in their general education classrooms as much as possible and really learning along their peers. That honestly can teach them more than a lot, like what we can as teachers. A lot of times they from peers. Teacher wise, we hope to increase that communication, that team feeling of not just special ed, gen ed, we're a team, we're all working for all students. And then administration, we hope that they focus less on some of those behavior management or just those tedious tasks that come with those behavior students who can take a lot of time of our day. And then as a community, we can proudly say that we're continuing to work together for that student success and providing that inclusive school environment. What that will look like, this is aimed specifically at the elementary. We've done a little bit of a test run of this at the middle school, and we have seen huge success, especially with our behavioral students. We're seeing more work completion from our special ed students who are pushing into the classrooms, and we're seeing less discipline referrals for behavioral students. So at the elementary, what that will look like is one behavioral support teacher K through 5, and then 3 teachers providing inclusion support. My hope is to provide professional development in the future for gen ed teachers on special education, those IEP meetings, and to continue to collect data to support, are we moving in the right direction? So that's what I have.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And Shayla's doing such a great job coordinating our special education, and she's done such a great job of making sure that we are in compliance and doing all of the things that we need to do. And the one thing that's been great about this different look at how we're servicing our students is the fact that it really came from teachers and came from particularly our special, our teachers that are teaching students with special needs, and just as a way to really bring about change, look at data and determine how we can grow those students better. And so I want to thank all of them for their hard work in what they're doing. And I know if you had any questions about how this is looking in the middle school, they would be glad to answer those specifically. And then we've also got some of our elementary folks here too. So I really feel like we're, this is something that some other corporations are a little further ahead than we are. I'll be perfectly honest, but we're getting there. So anyway, thank you, Shayla. Thank you, teachers, for doing a great job.
All right. Next on tonight's agenda is department reports. So you had those in your packet. Student achievement and learning from Mr. Jaworski. Student services and transportation from Mr. Clark. Food services from Mr. Prohl. And technology services from Mr. Gingrich. Did anyone have any questions or comments about those reports? Okay. Next on the agenda is the financial report, and Dr. Glaze has all that for us. And
yeah, so November we had a revenue of $938,582 and expenditures of $869,207. We're always glad when the revenue is bigger than the expenditures. Makes me smile. Leaving us a cash balance of around $24,000 now. That looks really scary, but actually that's more because of prepay months and some different things like that. So we would have anticipated that there would be a little bit of a low cash flow for that period. Operation expenditures were $303,000, and we continue to have a cash balance of $889,331. Good golly, if I could read numbers. That is our cash balance without our next draw. So it always gets a little bit low during this time because we're waiting for our next tax draw. And so that'll just pop right back up as soon as we get that. Debt service cash balance is $1.2 million. The ending cash balance in the rainy day is $2.5 million. So again, we're getting our tax draw on the 15th. For the operation fund, it will increase that cash balance up to $2.2 million. And one of the things that we haven't been able to do really for the last 2 years is we do not have to borrow from rainy day in order to make everything balance in the end. So that's a good thing. It's very positive. So we have enough cash balance that we don't have to do any kinds of transfers. Now we do have something on the agenda to increase the appropriations a bit. That's also something that will not have to be done in a year. So we're making steady progress. And again, I think that it's been a very concentrated effort to get our financial house in order.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is other, which is Dr. Glaze also. So
Yeah, I would like to invite our friends of Tipton FFA for a presentation, and I will upload your little presentation. And you're welcome to use this if you like. If it works, if the guy that it's on. Welcome to use this clicker. All right. Let me get you loaded up here.
JV game wasn't going real well, so I guess we'll be here instead. While we get started, I'm Jeff Rodabaugh.
I'm Aaron Conaway.
And then RJ Logan and Christy Conaway couldn't be with us this evening. We're all part of the Friends of FFA fundraising committee. I guess to start with, this really wasn't our idea. It was the school's idea, and really probably the previous administration, Gary and April, and some of you that were on the board prior to the current board and prior to the previous superintendent. So why a greenhouse at TCSC? This was an interesting quote I found today as I looked for PowerPoint background. So tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn, by Benjamin Franklin. Obviously, the Tower Gardens have taught us throughout our school system that touching a living thing is something that many of our students don't do anymore. And so that effort, that life and death, the thing that when you take care of something, it gives you something back. I think that's something that every student that comes in contact with not only the Tower Gardens, but also this greenhouse project will learn. It's such an important life lessons that many of our students don't learn anymore. I think that's kind of a transformative effort and learning experience for your students. Just the ability to care for something and see it take care of you back. Also, selfishly, when you look around, look at that map and look where we sit and look at the opportunities for the future prosperity of our students that exist right around us. This isn't about the students that are going for the PhD or that want to be a plant physiologist or whatever that is. This is about everyday students that need a job, that need to be able to provide for the family, need to find a path in life. They can do it with any of these companies that are right within a driving distance of our school. Hopefully, through the foresight of the school corporation, the introduction of the greenhouse, we are exposing our students to these opportunities, potential careers that are available to them, which are stable jobs, provide a great opportunity to increase the prosperity of our community. I don't even remember when we got started, but I guess we probably got started with Gary and the previous administration. There was a used greenhouse in Kokomo, and that's where we started from. We thought, some farmers and ag ingenuity and some good sweat and tears could really, rally a greenhouse and move it, and that's fine, but it's probably fine in our backyard, but it's not fine on a school property. And so that's where it started, but really at the beginning, there were some tough questions that had to be answered. Aaron and I aren't really ones that shy away from asking tough questions. And so Aaron, you want to cover some of the things that we were concerned with right away?
The sustainability, something that we were going to do in this greenhouse, and some of the big questions were, that's great. We can put this greenhouse together and we can build it, but then what? What's the curriculum? Are we going to have support with teachers? What's going to happen year 2, year 3, year 4? And if we're going to invest something for a long period of time, for 25 years worth of a building, how is it going to continue to grow and change, and how are we going to make sure it's supported? So that was a big factor, and that's why we started needing to start in the fundraise. We've done some of that, obviously, with adding the teachers. We've done. We'll cover our fundraising to help build that train and make sure that there's not only a track, but there's a train, and there's a lot of pieces to that for that sustainability project.
And we said if we're going to be involved, we're going to go ask companies and individuals to commit their hard-earned resources to the project. We wanted to know that it was going to be successful. We don't want to be embarrassed by this project 5 years down the road when we put our name out there. We went and asked folks for money and want to make sure that the school system's committed to it. time and time again, we challenge Dr. Glazer, you know, are you sure you know what you're getting into? Are you sure that the teachers are the ones that want to be here, that want to teach in a greenhouse setting? Because it takes extra effort, it takes extra coordination. They spend a lot of time, you know, visiting other school corporations. Obviously, Stacy's, you know, worked in the greenhouse, been a part of a greenhouse school at Lebanon, a successful one. They went to others that were more recently built. They talked about the operating expenses. The other thing we said, we don't want this to be built halfway. That's something that if we would have moved the one from before, we'd have always regretted that we had a small greenhouse that wasn't the most technologically advanced, to really challenge our students, as well as have an efficient greenhouse that can be ran by your students. Because there's nothing that's going to be done in the future that's not got some AI in it and got some app available. And it's moving that responsibility from strictly under teachers to that student's responsible for that particular weekend. You know, understanding the controls, knowing what's right and wrong with that greenhouse. Fortunately, the school system, the teachers, Dr. Glaze stepped up, and in the end, we agreed to be at the fundraising entity for the school corporation in this effort. We worked with the school to establish the different funding levels. We worked with the school to establish the brochure. And so some of that you see before, that wasn't our idea. You know, it was with the blessing of Dr. Glaze and the school corporation. So there's our funding committee. Early on in the fundraising process, we had a very successful grant request with the Tipton County Foundation. Very grateful for their leadership of this project. One, it challenged us to think critically about the project, get ourselves organized, talk to community leaders about the project, and get buy-in from them. You'll never know how many donors came as a result of Dr. Glaze's presentation there, Stacy's presentation there, and all of us united around the cause there at the foundation. So really appreciate their leadership in bringing this amenity to our community. You know, it provides opportunity not only for Tipton Community Schools, but also for others within the community to come and be a part of it. It's going to require some volunteers to be a part of it, to rally around. And you'll see right here, you've got the Goosebean Garden Club. They gave their entire donor advice fund to this project because they were so excited for a project they could thoroughly invest in. So of the $150,000 commitment, there's 25 of it from the donor, the Pioneer Youth Development Fund, which really is exciting because I think this school and Pioneer have had a history of working together. I think in the past, Pioneer would just bring out welders and they'd bring out other equipment to the ag department, and they just kind of took care of us. It doesn't happen that way anymore with corporations, but definitely it was exciting to see them on board as an early commitment to the project. This is also an opportunity for the two schools to work collectively together. And so that's definitely an olive branch that's been out there from Dr. Glaze to Tri-Central. Tom, you're a long-time foundation member. What's your thoughts here?
I think it's a great purpose. We've included not only Tri-Central, but our students. The building is going to be positioned where maybe even some equipment across the road with the extension could come in and help do some monotonous watering, helping something like that. And so it's just going to be a win-win for the entire community if we can get this done.
So in the brochure, we didn't have a $150,000 commitment, but we're sure excited to have it. Really a foundational commitment for this project. Next was the naming rights. It's something that Dr. Glaze and we worked together. And, you know, early on the project, we didn't necessarily expect the cost structure of this project. We didn't expect that when the school system put it out there for the particular classes that need to be within a greenhouse, it filled up like this. And all of a sudden it was like, well, you're supposed to have so much square footage per student, and we've got so much interest. And so the greenhouse got a little bit bigger to handle that interest, as well as all the supply constraints and the other challenges of a building project during the COVID supply situation. But naming rights was set out there to be $75,000 over 5 years. It's a $50,000 donation prior to construction, and then additional $25,000 over 5 years donated to the Friends of Tipton FFA. There may be a question at some points, why is the ongoing commitments of this project being held by the Friends of FFA? Why isn't that going to the school system? It's because of within the ebbs and flows of the school system, different funding levels happen and different projects fall in and out of favor. And so by holding the funds for the additional 5 years, we're there if Stacy and and Dr. Glaze and the school system say, hey, we need to add this to the greenhouse. So it's going to cost $10,000. Well, they're not going to want to come back to you after doing a project this size. We'll have funds available to make that happen. And I think we've shown over the last 2.5 years that we've supported Stacy and the agricultural education effort as whenever they needed it. So
Sidebar on a couple things that Jeff said. One is that, there was, at the beginning, it was talked about, we're not doing this halfway, and you're not getting these individuals involved if we're going to do it halfway. That was definitely the commitment that I want to make sure you guys continue to think about. Second one is with the front funds with going to the Friends of Tipton FFA is that was one of the #1 things, as he'll get to the next slide, about the corporate sponsorship. There was a serious concern every time that we went, and we got significant sponsors for this. What about the funds? How I know my money is going to be protected? How we know it's going to continue to go on with the greenhouse? We've seen these things happen before, and it's a hot topic, and it's fresh, and let's do this. And in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, things get dissolved because of hard times or whatnot. And we were able to stand, and with that agreement, we were able to stand behind that and provide them stability that your sponsorship is going to thrive and survive, and we're going to protect those funds, and we're going to do everything we can of the Friends of Tipton FFA to make sure this is ongoing for a long time.
And we're excited to announce that we have a naming rights sponsor. I mean, how cool is that to have a $75,000 donor? We're not going to announce them yet. They're still in working through the legal negotiations, the legal part that every naming rights agreement happens. But we're sure thrilled to have that verbal commitment. It's a local, project partner that makes sense for the past of this school system, the present, and the future. So we're excited to have them on board. The next level was the Legacy Partners, $25,000 donation over a 5-year period. Some of these have already been pictured in the local paper. Others are more difficult to get organized for a picture, but I think you've already seen that Vex has been recognized in the local paper. The Campbell Family Foundation, they're planning to get a picture here sometime around the Christmas time. Cargill, again, we worked with them, a local grant. That's a local and a national grant combined that we're able to win. We'll get a picture for that sometime. The local Edward Jones office, Jason and Kurt Hare, we sure appreciate their leadership and understanding of how important agriculture is to this community, how important it is to their business. So we really appreciate them getting on board early. Gave us confidence that, hey, there's more than just ag. It means more to our community than sometimes we give it credit for. Encompass, First Farmers Bank and Trust, Roger and Diane Hare, and then the TCF Pioneer Youth Development Fund. That was in reference to one of the previous slides. They'll also be recognized as a legacy partner. So just absolutely incredible partnerships there. And then we've got a commemorative plaque for permanent recognition. So the harvesting level, and these are levels that Stacy came up with, and then that we utilized the school to create that brochure. So $10,000 donations and above, we've got 3 donors at that level. Families and corporations, both alike, stepped up to make that commitment happen. Ripening level, $5,000 donations and above, 6 donors. Flowering level, $1,000 donations and above, 20 donors. Budding level, $500 and above, $24. And then program recognition, seedling level, $250, 6 donors. Sprout level, $100 donations, 2 donors. Those will be recognized in the programming that Stacy and Jessica have throughout the year. And then just additional project believers, and bless their hearts, it wasn't at those levels, but they wanted to give what they could. All told, just an unbelievable community commitment. Donations collected, $312,760. It's awesome. Donations due before January, $75,500. That includes the naming rights sponsor of $50,000. So hopefully that all continues to move forward, and that'll be the number that will come to the corporation as a part of the construction project. And then the donation balance over a 5-year period to the Friends of Tipton FFA to support the operation enhancement of the greenhouse, $109,000. Every day we're getting an additional $500 or $1,000 as they get those text messages from me. Probably don't want to get right now, but they go ahead and generously give. So total donations, $497,260.09. Currently 69 generous donors. We can't thank them enough. I think it shows the community supported. We also believe that there's some skepticism out there amongst the agricultural community. So we think once this thing breaks ground, we also think there's going to be some additional donors that are going to want to be a part of it. So, so they don't always believe this school is going to follow through with what they're putting forward, but there's a new sheriff in town. We're excited. Dr. Glaze, we can't thank you enough for your leadership throughout this project. In order for us to go out and ask for folks to give us money, it takes confidence in your leader. We appreciate Stacy and Jessica being on board. And Aaron took them to Bex. He knew once he took those two talented teachers to Bex that they were going to commit to donation. We're very blessed by the two teachers we have. I don't know that we understand how blessed we are, but anybody that's had a student through their program will understand they will get your student to do more than what they really want to do. And they'll make them better students across all spectrums to prepare them for life. So this is obviously the rendering that we've been sharing with donors, and we're pretty proud of the way it looks, pretty proud of what Dr. Glaze is and the committee that was been involved with that. We really haven't been involved that Friday meeting. They've been meeting forever on it. So I know Dr. Glaze is excited to move this project forward. So any questions on what we've accomplished, what you've accomplished in the school system?
Thank you.
Thank you.
for all you've
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, I think thank for everything you guys have done. Thank you so much.
Yes,
And
thank you.
thank you, I mean, for your vision and just seeing this thing through. It's very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah.
So, thank you,
Appreciate the
guys.
leadership of the
Thank
board.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have no old business to work on this evening. We have new business. And first thing is consideration to approve the additional appropriation in the education and operation funds. The approved 2021 appropriation for the education fund was $9,197,300, and the operation fund was $4,327,829. Projected expenditures for the education fund is $850,000, and operation fund is $600,000 more than the approved appropriation. The available cash balance in both funds will cover the additional appropriations. No transfer from the rainy day fund is necessary. And a public hearing was held earlier this evening, just before this meeting, to change the appropriation. It is the recommendation of the Board of Trustees to approve the additional appropriation in education fund of $850,000 and operation fund of $600,000. I need a motion and a second to approve that.
I move to approve the transfer of funds.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of the transfer of fund or for the appropriation change, all say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next is consideration to approve transfer of funds. In order to close out the 2021 budget, all major budget accounts must not show a deficit. Intra and intra-fund transfers of appropriations allow schools to transfer surplus appropriations to accounts needing additional appropriation. Recommendation of that the board approve the transfer of funds to close the 2021 budget. Summary will be made available to the board at the January meeting. Need a motion and a second.
Move to approve the transfer fund.
I have a motion and a second to approve the transfer of funds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up is consideration to approve the greenhouse project bids. Bids were received last Tuesday, December the 7th, for the greenhouse project. Bids were placed into 6 categories: concrete and general trades, 2 masonry, 3 greenhouse, 3 egg greenhouse, alternate manufacturer, 4 mechanical and plumbing, and 5 electrical. The lowest responsive bid by category are category 1, Able Construction, which is W.R. Duncan. Category 2, complete masonry. Category 3, Stubby Greenhouse. Category 4, mechanical plumbing. And category 5, Omni Electric. Your packet includes the 4 pricing options that include the base bid of $855,285, base bid plus alternate 1, total of $938,774, base bid plus alternate 3, a total of $965,226, and base bid plus alternate 1 and 3 for a total of $1,049,315. We will need a motion and a second in order to approve the greenhouse project option and the total dollar amount of construction. Questions, comments, discussion?
I move to accept the base bid plus alternate 1 and alternate 3.
I second that.
We have a motion and a couple seconds for that. So all in favor of the base bid plus alternate 1 and alternate 3 for a total of $1,049,315, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next is consideration to approve Tipton Ford for naming rights of the football stadium. A contract between Tipton Ford and Tipton Community School Corporation is included in your packet detailing the naming rights for our football stadium. Contract is for 3 years, beginning January 10th, 2022. The contract was reviewed and approved by contract attorney John Becker from Church Hill and Antrim. Approval of the contract is recommended as it is written and was provided to you. Need a motion and a second.
I move to approve Tipton Ford for naming rights of the Tipton Football Stadium. I second.
A motion and a second to approve Tipton Ford for the naming rights of the football stadium. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And next, other matters to come before the board. Does anyone on the board have any they want to discuss? Coming up, our advisory committee meetings, December 20th is personnel. January the 17th is business affairs. February the 14th, which I believe there was a change.
We're just going to have another meeting.
Okay. And March 14th is facilities and technology. And coming up, the last day for students is this Friday. Teacher work day is next Monday. Personnel committee meeting next Monday, as previously stated. And Christmas break is January 20th or December 20th through January the 2nd. And students return to school on January the 3rd. And the report cards, as Dr. Glaze said earlier, will be available January the 5th. Next is comments from the community.
We have 3 signed up tonight. Mr. Rob Cochran.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all the stuff I won't get to say soon, because I'll be done with my 3 minutes. So 2 things. We had a death in our family earlier in November. My daughter's grades had dipped a little bit in the middle school, and we reached out to Miss Kikta, scheduled an appointment to come in, talk about what are they seeing, et cetera, et cetera. Came in the day of the appointment. Miss Kikta was handling a COVID case, handed me off to Mr. Ayers, and my radar went off immediately, right, that I was going to meet with this person, going to meet with that. Now I get moved to this other person. And I'm just tonight, on behalf of my daughter and my wife, to say, before we came to Tipton, we were in parochial schools and paying, and we never had such a great experience as we had with Mr. Ayers and the teachers that my daughter has. The email communication that we got was, you wouldn't believe it. It was just great, professional, well thought out, all those things. And I just wanted you to know that, at least in the middle school, I don't have any in the high school till next year, but that was a great experience as well. But the middle school is just doing a great job with communication and with individual learning in a pretty chaotic environment. And I just, I wanted you guys to know that. The second thing is, I got an email that the school had been searched and kids were putting backpacks out and all that stuff. And I just wanted to tell you thank you. And I wanted you to search the school every 30 days, search it every 7 days, search it every day. I think it's fantastic. And when I have a car here, when she brings a car here, search the car. I don't get any of my news from Facebook, but I understood there was maybe a contrary opinion to that. And I just wanted you to know, on behalf of my family, search it every day, because we will never be sorry if something happens that we didn't do enough. So whatever Dave needs or raise our taxes, whatever you have to do to search the building, continue to search the building, and thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to just add to that because I have a coworker, a couple coworkers that have children in the school corporation that were very complimentary of us doing the search, and they did not care if it cost, money, taxpayers or anything. I have another coworker at work whose husband is one of the one of the dog handlers, and she informed me after she checked with her husband, and it doesn't cost them anything because they need it for the training just as much as the school needs it for protection and security. So, okay, next person.
Laura Satong.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas to you.
Real quick, I know the students have taken the iLearn test, right? The testing they just had, right?
Well, that was last spring. Yeah.
What was the testing they just took?
NWEA.
Okay. Will those results be made available to the parents?
Yeah, they will be in January. We have to wait before we can print reports. Everybody has to take it, and we do still have a percentage of kids that are in out-of-school quarantine. So hopefully they'll be back at the beginning of January. We'll be able to finalize and print reports.
Okay.
And you should get them in an email. We're working on that, right, Shane? Yes.
All right, 'cause I was asking.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm asking because my 7th grader, the day of the test, on the bus ride home, got her results emailed to her from somebody on her phone with her test results and everything else. And I didn't get it, so I didn't know. And she was telling me, and of course, like a kid, she's like, oh, don't worry, this is the low, this is the high. But, there's a lot of meat in there that describes where they're at and things.
I'm not sure how that would have happened.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
it did. And I even spoke to her tutor, was able to pull it up and explain to me. So
Okay.
I don't know how that happened either. All right, well, good. Thank you, because
Absolutely.
we like to see it. Okay, and I'd be remiss too if I didn't bring up the fact, we're all aware that there's a new variant out there. This makes, I don't know, 4 or 5. They're talking about the 4th round of boosters or whatever. I appreciate the step forward you've taken so far with the updating of the guidelines that you did, I don't know, month, 2 months ago and that kind of thing. But I really think we need to really proactively just get done with, progress further. This thing's not going to go away. It's going to mutate. It's going to change. We have to learn to live with it. They're talking now about, yearly vaccines like the flu, this and that. And I just think, just from what I've learned from the test results that were gone over with me, is there really is a learning deficit, like 2 grade levels. And I don't know how we're going to make that up unless we really push through this and get these kids back in school. And I say that because I'm hoping on Christmas break that you obviously have a great Christmas break. But at some point, we really need to revisit those guidelines because reading through them, there's a lot that just didn't make sense. Because there's like nobody here. I
Did
just
you really try to stick to the
I
3
know,
minutes of fairness?
and I appreciate your generosity. But one of the things I noticed is with the quarantine, I recognize we're not keeping track of the numbers anymore on the, the board when it's put out. But I struggle because some of it doesn't make sense, i.e. last year, when the middle school in particular before Christmas was shut down and we kept going through, certain grades were shut down for 2 weeks and quarantined and this and that. While kids were home at quarantine, grades, schools, they were still able to come and practice their sports and participate that way. And I guess reading through the guidelines, when kids opt to stay home for quarantine, because of the mask wearing issues and things like that, but yet the guideline says that they can't go and participate in practice when we've already had that happen last year. I just think there's a lot of confusion about it, and I think we kind of need to tighten it up. I just feel, I'm probably in the minority, but I've been there before. I just feel like reading through those guidelines, there's a lot of emphasis put on getting kids to sports, and I'm not saying it's not important. They're both equally important. You can support one and you can support the other. But I just think we have such a glaring educational need, and we're in a school, and the idea of school is to learn. I just feel that we really kind of need to focus on that as well, and I think it's an opportunity to revisit those and maybe clarify so we're not doing two separate things.
Thank you. So noted.
Thank you.
Dr. Glaze, is it still being updated every Friday
Yes.
on the website? Okay.
I do that usually on a Thursday,
Okay.
and actually it's typically Thursday evening when it's ready to
Okay.
go. But we do get that, and we send that to Rob and get his blessing and thoughts, which I appreciate greatly. And so yeah,
I don't think I looked last week. What are the numbers right now?
I would have to go on the website and look. So give me a chance, and I will.
But minimal, and it's not.
It's not been bad. We did have an uptick in kids that were in quarantine, but it was not as in what Rob said. We're looking better than a lot of schools. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
So in elementary school, we had 4 positives, 15 in quarantine. 10 of those quarantines were in school, 5 were out. In middle school, we had 1 positive, 16 quarantines, 7 of those were in school, 9 of them were out. And in the high school, we have 6 positives, 28 quarantines, 12 in, 16 out. My comments back to Amber and Dr. Glaze were, if you see the data from other school corporations that are within probably a driver and a sandwich of where we're sitting right now, we are doing remarkably well from that standpoint. So you've seen other school corporations that are implementing mask mandates and going in an opposite direction. We are not seeing the numbers to support that. We are below 1% total volume of infection, which if it was a seasonal flu, we wouldn't even be talking about it. So I think the threshold is still the correct threshold, and I believe that because Western and other school corporations have adopted ours, and I think that lets people know that that's where we should be looking for the data is actually in the schools, not in the county.
I do agree with you. I think we took a tremendous step a couple months ago, and it's not what I would do if it was just my choice, obviously, and it's not what a lot of us would do. I think it's a compromise, and we are keeping kids in school, which I'm thankful for, and giving them the option. I don't want my child to wear a mask for 10 days, but I'd rather him be in school. I'm lesser of two evils, I guess. But I agree. I am hoping that at least for the next school year that we have to just accept that this is what it is and go back to normal life.
Thank you.
Real quick, if there's any way we could track the percent of staff and students that have had COVID, it might help us figure out where we are towards herd immunity as far as who's had it and maybe help play in some way or another to those.
Mrs. Millett is our final speaker.
I have 2 different questions. The first one is, did IDEM ever talk to the school corporation about its plans for State Road 19 turning here at Park Road?
IDEM? No.
Did
And
any?
I think it's early, in that whole process, because it's going to, from what I understand from the mayor, that is likely down the road, maybe 3 to 4 years. So, yeah, but I'm just saying as far as the planning and as far as the fact finding and everything that they will need to do, it's down the road a bit.
I just wondered where the crossings would be for the students
Well,
and how the traffic would be with kids leaving the parking lot.
we are, part of our site plan is we're making a few changes to how we are sending students out on Park Road, and we're also eliminating a couple of exits onto Park Road to alleviate some of the congestion.
It sounds very confusing, doesn't it?
And
And the crosswalk out here, it's good there is a crosswalk, but it looks pretty narrow to me. I don't think you could walk double line of kids on the sidewalk.
That's not an area that we don't really intend to use that. I mean, classes or anything like that.
My other set of questions, what is alternate 1 with the greenhouse? You approved alternate 1 and 3, and no
Al-
mention was made what they were.
Alternate 1 is the archway that you see right there with Tipton Greenhouse on it. And then alternate 3 is the brick knee wall of Partway.
Okay. Thank you.
And alternate 2 was the little podium things. We just kind of took those right off immediately because we didn't see the need for that expense.
Those have.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're expensive.
Okay.
So those won't be there.
They will not.
Okay.
Yeah, they will not.
Have no other speakers or people from the community, so entertain a motion and a second to adjourn.
I move to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
A motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Thank you all for coming.